Right. Welcome to the Rebel Rebel. I am sitting here across the country with Marisa Sheff. How's it going?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thank you. So I'm in Calgary. You're way out east in Toronto.
Yeah,
Is that right?
that's right.
Yeah. And how's life out in Toronto right now?
The sun is starting to come out, which is nice and much needed. Pretty good. Life's
Yeah.
pretty good. I mean, it's busy and stagnant all at the same time.
Nice. Well, and you guys get seasons out there.
Yes.
You get 4 of them, which is nice. Just to bring our listeners up to speed, Marisa, why don't you give us a little blurb about who you are and what you're doing? You've got this really cool company that I was introduced to recently, and I'm totally inspired by it. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, first of all, thanks so much for having me on. I wanted to just chat about Sock Footage, which is fairly new still, launched this past August, and there's kind of a few parts to it. So initially, the idea behind the brand was born because I heard that socks were the most needed, least donated item at homeless shelters.
Oh.
I actually was previously working in the sock manufacturing industry for about 5.5 years for a very large sock manufacturer.
Really?
And during that time, I learned that socks were so important for the homeless community. As you can imagine, if people are on their feet all day, walking to and from job interviews or different places, really your feet as a homeless person are your primary mode of transportation. And so if you don't have a good pair of socks, you can be in trouble. And so
can you donate socks? Like you can't donate used socks, right?
So no, the deal with the shelters is they unfortunately or fortunately won't accept used socks. And I think most people just aren't aware of that. So very often you see people bringing in used clothing, and as a product of that, you think, okay, well, I'll just throw some socks into the bag with that. But they actually won't accept donations of used socks or used underwear. So that's sort of where they're seeing a lag in the donations, because people just aren't thinking that they should go out and buy new socks and underwear. So it's an area where they're just not getting what they need. And the shelters have expressed a need for a men's specific cotton sock because their clientele is predominantly male. And so
it's pretty,
I just wanted
generic.
Just generic, but also, so the sock that we actually offer is a gray sock. You don't want a white sock because it's going to get dirty. And if it's your only pair of socks, it's not going to really carry you through very far. So,
and just so that I understand this clearly, so Sock Footage is a company where I would go buy socks. Like I've got the most outrageous sock collection. Like I've got some killer socks. So I can go there and buy some wicked socks. And then for every one pair that I buy, you donate a pair to a homeless shelter?
So there's actually 2 options. So when the company first started, the idea was to get people reconnecting with community. And so understanding that not everyone is comfortable with that, we wanted to give people a few options with regards to the donation piece. So yes, I launched a sock subscription and retail store online. And basically we predominantly sell novelty socks, both men's, women's, and kids. And when you purchase a pair of socks and you check out at cart, you have the option to either have the donation sock shipped out with your order, in which case you can donate face-to-face to someone in need on the street.
Nice.
Or you can opt to have us donate on your behalf, in which case it goes to our partner charity, which generally is Socks for Souls Canada, and they redistribute to homeless shelters across the GTA. Or during the pandemic, which we're all sort of living through at the moment, we wanted to make sure that socks were still getting to people in need on the streets. And so we've partnered with Wer Havta, and they are an organization that has a mobile outreach van that is circulating the city, distributing supplies to people directly on the street. So during the pandemic, we are still getting those donations out to people in need, which is really important. And as you can imagine, especially now, the homeless community is one of the most vulnerable populations. So so we wanted to get those online sock subscriptions going. And the nice thing about the subscriptions is you get 2 pairs of novelty socks each month and then 2 pairs of donation socks. So it's kind of the gift that keeps on giving. You have the opportunity to do a good deed every month, which is really nice. And obviously getting something in the mail and it's a surprise selection for you is always exciting.
That's so cool.
And then the other piece of sort of the sock footage puzzle was an initiative that rolled out in November of this past year, which was actually, we're piloting it. So it's our first charitable sock vending machine, which is located at Ryerson University, which is my alma mater. And the reason we placed it there was not only because I wanted to give back to my university, but there's a lot of access to homeless people in the area, given that it's in downtown Toronto.
Right.
So I wanted to make sure that if people were interested in doing the face-to-face giving, that they had the opportunity and the access to be able to do so. And the machine basically works exactly like the website. So you approach the machine to buy a pair of novelty socks, and simultaneously, when you make your selection, a pair of free cotton donation socks will drop. And essentially, the person involved in the purchase is also involved in the donation. So there's a donation box attached to the side of the machine if you want to donate on site. Or again, like I said, you have access to people in the area that you can go out and give face to face.
Man, that is so awesome. Wow.
It was really a passion project of mine to get that going. I think, I honestly think that vending is the sort of retail way of the future. And I think with regards to getting it into a space, Ryerson is a really unique space. There's lots of foot traffic in the area where the machine is located. And I think students are sort of the ones that will buzz about some sort of grassroots initiative. And also from a social perspective, they're really engaged in giving back. So our hashtag is actually Pay It Footward. And encouraging people to share footage of their before and after donation experiences or of the socks that they've purchased to drum up some awareness around the homeless community and try and remove some of the stigma associated with homelessness. Because I think there is still some stigma there. And as we sort of embark on making new connections with community, I think people come to the realization that everyone is human, and it just creates a new touch point and connection that may not have been there before, and a new understanding and compassion, and increases empathy for people living on the streets. So,
wow, that's a very inspiring. And so lovely. So I have so many questions. And I guess the first one is, I mean, it's great to have this business, but to tie it into, an opportunity to give back to the world, I think is fantastic. That's inspiring in and of itself. What got you here? Like, what is it that sort of brought you, Marisa, to this world of giving?
So I think there's a number of things that brought me to that point. I definitely grew up with my parents modeling the importance of giving back. They were very involved in our community. I grew up in Montreal, actually, and they were just constantly volunteering for different organizations. And so obviously I saw a bit of that and then wanted to sort of get involved myself. But I actually think that I came to it a bit later in life. And that's also one of the reasons why I wanted to introduce the machine into Ryerson, because I wish that when I was in school that I had been more involved in sort of the charitable organizations or volunteering. And it's something that I only sort of delved into when I got out of school. And I actually had the opportunity to volunteer at the Center for Addiction and Mental Health in Toronto for just over 5 years. And during my time there, what I learned was a lot of the clients or patients coming in. So I worked at the library that was on site playing board games with clients and patients. And what I noticed just from interacting with them was that just like everyone else, they craved connection and conversation. They literally came in to have someone to talk to. And I felt like that was sort of the missing link in a lot of the companies that offer to donate on your behalf. They're sort of removing that touch point or connection point that makes you feel good when you give back. And I wanted to reintroduce that because I think it's a really important component to charitable giving, and again, like I said earlier, not everyone's comfortable with that, but for people that are, or for people that are curious about it, it gives an opportunity to engage and sort of realize the impact of those actions firsthand. And just having sort of gone through it myself, I realized how important that is, and it makes you feel great, but it also makes you want to continue doing what you're doing, which I think is obviously super important.
Yeah.
And, through that experience, I wanted to keep finding ways to give back, but also I realized through a little experience I had with my partner that pushing people outside their comfort zone only results in people feeling that same way, wanting to do more. And that was really important to me to get people re-involved in giving.
The giving curious.
Yeah, I think it's infectious, honestly. When you start it, you don't want to stop it. And I think we need that in the world right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. That's amazing. So you've got the vending machine, you've got the website, which is sockfootage.com, where people can do this. And it's lovely. I'm just tickled by the whole idea of this thing. Do you have any plans for having your vending machine in other places? Because it seems like such a great idea.
Yeah, so the idea was initially to just pilot at Ryerson to make sure that it makes sense from a sales perspective, from a location perspective, from a visibility perspective.
Yeah.
The idea is that, that can be rolled out to so many different spaces. Airports come to mind, hospitals, sure. Even large office buildings. So another thing that I've been doing is creating this little VIP pop-up experience at various offices around the city. So it actually started at Facebook Canada. I was invited to do a pop-up at their office for their employees, and I would come in and basically set up like a little retail store with all the socks. I had donation bins on site. And what's amazing is, for me, I think, my business is all about making connections. And so it gave me an opportunity to be front facing with the consumers, but also to tell them and educate them about what I was doing and why. And then also to see their reaction also was really important for me, to get their feedback. One particular sort of story that comes to mind is, a lot of people, as I said before, are hesitant to give face to face, and I try and give a little nudge every now and then to people that I come across. And I met someone at one of these shows who was hesitant to take the donation socks with them. And then she sort of wavered and was saying, well, there is this homeless man that I see regularly when I'm going to and from work. And maybe I could give to him. And I could tell that she was a little bit intimidated and didn't really know how to approach the situation.
Yeah.
And I kind of just let her in on something that I had heard, a really shocking statistic that I heard on the radio, which was homeless people only hear their names 4 times a year, which really resonated with me, because there's really nothing sweeter than hearing your own name.
Yeah, to be recognized
by someone else. And the fact that that was the case was really eye-opening. And I think it, when I said it to her, she said she got chills, and, that prompted her to want to sort of step outside her comfort zone. She ended up leaving with the donation socks to be able to give to someone. So it's those little moments and little interactions for me that make this so special and make me sort of want to keep pushing forward and raising awareness, because I think, that it's just really a nice sort of gesture to be able to make someone feel like they're not invisible. And
hard to be invisible when you're wearing a pair of socks.
Yeah. It's just the little acts of kindness that really do go a long way. And I think people tend to forget that when they're sort of running to and from and busy and in their daily lives. It's easy to lose sight of those things, but on the receiving end, it's really impactful. And I think, you could be that one person that's changed that person's day just by talking to them and maybe making them feel like they're valuable, and someone realizing their worth and then coming away from it and wanting to better themselves is a totally plausible result of that interaction.
The hustle is strong with you, right? Like,
I know, it's very strong.
Yeah. So where do you see sock footage in the next, even let's just call it the next year? So what's your big crazy goal here?
I mean, I think right now, driving awareness and traffic to the site, and, because anyone that I meet and, especially in person, when I have an opportunity to explain the company and what we're trying to achieve, is so excited about the idea, but it's a matter of getting the word out. And I think, sort of evaluating the results of the vending machine for sure, and sort of popping up into different spaces would be one angle, but then just trying to get in front of as many people as possible. I think when we talked earlier, I'm really open to all sorts of ideas. So I've been approached by people to do corporate gifting. I've done a birthday party. I've done a bar mitzvah. So I think, really just trying to project the gift that keeps on giving and getting as many people as possible involved in the giving experience. Because once that sort of takes hold, I think people get excited and want to do more. So early on, I had a customer that ordered off of the website, and she decided to have the donation socks shipped out with her order to be able to give out with her kids. And I think she has 2 boys that are both 5 and 7. And she decided she was going to go out one day. This was actually this past Christmas. And she decided to go out and give the socks out with her kids. And the result of that was the kids were just so excited by the reaction of the people on the receiving end that they separately organized this full-blown initiative where they collected other types of supplies, deodorant, toothbrush, toothpaste, sanitizer, all kinds of things, put together 150 packages, and then ended up giving them out to different homeless people. And that was sort of just a byproduct of having, come across the site, given the socks, had a really positive experience. And then, like I said, it's one of those things where you do it once and then you sort of want to figure out how you can do it again and do more and grow. And so that was a really amazing sort of domino effect of the site. And I think the more people that are exposed to it, the more that's going to happen. And that's really my goal at the end of the day, is to get as many people giving in person as possible. Because I think, we, in this age of technology, we've lost those connections. Everyone's sort of walking around looking at their phones, not looking up. So we want to reconnect people.
Amazing. I was thinking to myself as you were talking how I can get sock footage in Calgary. right? Like
Yeah.
and are you only going to be Canada based, or do you plan to going down to the United States? Like, how big is this market that you're going after?
So right now the website does ship to the U.S. currently. So I mean, the sky's the limit. I've definitely early on had been in touch with sort of the university circuit across North America, and I decided obviously to start things locally, see how it goes, and then expand from there. So there's certainly opportunities to move more into the U.S. I've had a few U.S. orders, but obviously just based on the fact that I'm sort of located here, it's sort of started the swell around the brand has started here, and then
of course
hopefully the reverberation effect will expand beyond Canada.
That's fantastic. We have a lot of listeners in the United States, so
oh, nice.
Yeah, especially lots in California. So I'm curious if they're going to jump on board.
Sweet. Well, we've had a few people order from Seattle and a few from New York. So
that's great.
You never know. It's kind of across the board.
I love it. That's great. So and is this it for you? This is your job? This is what you do?
This is my full-time gig at the moment. I think it's really important for entrepreneurs, if you have the opportunity to do so, to really focus all your attention and energy if you're going to build a business and a brand, because honestly, it really does take all your time. It's my baby. I think, from start to finish during my day, I'm involved in every piece of it, from like, I designed the website myself. I do all the social media. I ship out all the orders. I'm the one restocking the vending machine. I'm the one doing these pop-ups. So, obviously I'll have to relinquish that control at some point, but in the early stages, you just have to get your hands and feet wet in every part of the business to properly understand how to grow, and also to be able to pivot if things aren't working. So that's always been important for me. And I as long as I can continue to do so, I will concentrate all my efforts on it.
That's fantastic. You, if you could give yourself, if you go back in time to high school and give yourself the coolest nickname ever, what would it be?
Well, I thought about this a lot because I've had some really mediocre nicknames in my life. Believe it or not, I have curly hair. My hair is straight right now, but I have very, very curly hair. And so Curly Murley was my name for quite a while, and I'd like to get rid of that. So, when asked that question, I honestly came up with Creative Rebel, because I think I was a very interesting child. I was very, very shy and reserved in my early years, and only sort of reaching high school did I break out of my shell. And I'm not really sure what the turning point was there, because now I just won't shut up. So there was some sort of momentous occasion that I can't still to this day pinpoint, but I went from having my teachers write in my report cards that I was the quiet child that was crying all the time, to this like social butterfly who can't get enough, calls her friends every day, needs that interaction. And so some switch has flipped somewhere along the lines, but I've always been creative for sure. And more recently, I've been a little bit more of a rebel. So I think taking chances is part of entrepreneurship. And so that's kind of why Creative Rebel would be like a nice nickname to have.
That's awesome. I hereby dub you Creative Rebel.
Thank you.
Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I'm definitely an extrovert, which I think is interesting just based on my history in terms of my youth, but definitely an extrovert.
In everything that you know about everything, what are the top 5 things that people need to know?
Well, I think the first one was something I mentioned earlier, that socks are the most needed, least donated item at homeless shelters, and that homeless shelters will not take in used socks, so they definitely have to be new.
Yeah.
I can only speak to Toronto at the moment, but the homeless population here is growing exponentially, and there aren't enough resources or shelter at the moment. And housing is a really big issue, which I imagine is similar in Calgary.
Yeah.
And anything that we can do to make people's days a little bit brighter is something that they can use. The smallest act of kindness really does go a long way. I think in terms of the sock end of things, buying funky socks is really fun. It's one of those things that makes a great gift. It's not terribly expensive. People are constantly excited to get new socks. It's one size fits all. So it's a really easy purchase, and will definitely make someone happy on the receiving end. I actually, for birthdays, used to give people socks instead of birthday cards, because it's like a card you're going to throw out.
Oh, yeah.
Why bother?
And their cards are expensive.
Cards are really expensive, almost as expensive as some of my socks, actually. So, I think giving the gift that keeps giving back is really important. And I think also teaching kids about being charitable at a young age is such an important life lesson. It's funny because I have a friend who comes to visit from Montreal, and she has 2 young kids, and because the homelessness here is so visible, I remember one time her daughter was asking why there were people lying on the streets. And I think we have forgotten or have become desensitized to the fact that these are just people. They grew up in sort of similar beginnings to everyone, and then somewhere along the lines they took a different path for whatever reason. Yeah. Whether they didn't have enough support in their lives or whether they had some sort of trauma, but really people are just people. And so sort of being intimidated is really unnecessary. I think in approaching some homeless people on the street, you realize that they're just like everyone else. As I mentioned earlier, they crave connection, they crave conversation, just like we do.
Yeah.
So I think those are all really important things to think about. And for me, it's just all about reconnecting with community.
Outstanding. At this point of the show, I like to sort of turn it over to you. And you said a lot during the show about the entrepreneur journey and sort of how you approach things. There are people out in the world who are, maybe they're stuck in a job, or they feel that they're stuck in a job, or, they don't have a job right now because of the way things are on the planet. What advice would you give to those rebels in waiting to sort of help them, get onto their entrepreneurial journey or start doing the thing that they should be doing?
I think it's really easy as an entrepreneur, and I still hesitate to call myself one because I still don't think that it's real in my head, but I think it's really easy because I know this from myself that I'm very much a perfectionist, and I think it's that perfection that is a hurdle to many entrepreneurs in just even simply starting their business. They have an idea, but they don't want to launch it until it's perfect.
Right.
Well, this just in, guys, it's never going to be perfect. And if you wait till it is to launch, you will never launch. And that's something that I learned from listening to many entrepreneurial podcasts myself. Even Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook was saying there's, certain things that he wasn't ready to launch and then he did. It's, you perfect along the way, and it's never going to be at its best at the first go. So I think just going through the motions and pushing forward and continuing, there's always time to improve things along the way or later on, but just getting the initial concept out there is actually half the battle. Yeah. Because we are our own biggest enemies when it comes to, believing in ourselves sometimes. And so, it's, if you have an idea and you're passionate about it, that's enough to be able to get out there, at least initially. The rest will sort of work itself out. If you are a grinder, a hustler, I honestly, truly believe if you have a good idea and you're passionate about it, then that's enough.
Awesome. Fantastic. If you, who is your favorite fictional character in the world?
So I honestly think I've had a few over the years. I was very big into Archie comics.
Awesome.
But I remember as a child being really drawn to Nancy Drew novels.
Oh, awesome.
And I think, honestly, thinking back to it, the reason for that was I think she was a strong female lead. And I think there weren't that many of those at the time when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And she was a risk taker, but she was also a problem solver. And as an entrepreneur, let me tell you, there's lots of problems along the way to be solved and lots of things that can go wrong. So I think I was just always drawn to her. I also am very passionate about crime shows and detective stories and things like that. So I think there was this innate sort of attachment to Nancy Drew as a child, and even now I'm obsessed with like Law and Order and all those shows. So
procedural dramas.
Yeah, but I think, you know, having that strong female lead and growing up reading all of her stories really sort of planted some sort of a seed in me. As I said, as a child, I was super quiet, but somewhere along the way, I
maybe it was Nancy
flourished into who I am today, and I'm very thankful for that.
That's great. What is the so speaking of which, what is the craziest thing you have ever done?
The craziest thing I've ever done was actually pretty recently. So my partner and I have gotten into rock climbing these last couple of years, and we a year and a half ago made our first trip out to Thailand, and we rock climbed outside, which was not like we were indoor rock climbing until now.
Yeah.
But we rock climbed on these amazing cliffs in a town called Krabi. And it was not only breathtaking, but terrifying.
No kidding.
But exhilarating. I don't know. There's so many words to describe it, but it was really definitely like the craziest thing that I've done in terms of like physical ability, and also just like, I don't know. It was really crazy.
A favorite color?
Blue. Favorite
pair of socks?
Oh God, I think definitely my cardio is Hardio socks.
Cardio. That's awesome. Can I get those at Sock Footage?
Yes, you can.
Cardio is Hardio. That's fantastic. Favorite book?
I like a lot of the Brené Brown books. So her favorite one of mine is The Gifts of Imperfection.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Which is a really good read for entrepreneurs as well.
Nice. What's your favorite movie of all time?
Oh my God. A lot of the Molly Ringwald stuff. So I'd probably say 16 Candles.
Wow.
Am I aging myself right now?
No. Like you can't be that old. That's my vintage.
I got a baby face.
Well, you are gifted. Wow, Marisa, this has been absolutely wonderful. I've enjoyed every moment of this, and I can't wait to see more of what you're up to. And I'm going to get myself a subscription. That is not a shameless plug for your thing, but I'm so inspired because I love socks. I have 2 drawers of socks, and I'm very special about the ones that I wear every day. So, I need an influx of new ones. And I love the idea of being able to get socks that I can give out to homeless people. Especially, I live in a place called Kensington in Calgary. It's right in the core, and lots of homeless people down there. So I'm looking forward to spreading that joy. And
yeah, for sure, that would be awesome.
Thank you for the inspiration, and thank you for the conversation.
Thank you for using your platform to create awareness. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Have an awesome week.
Thank you. You too.